They thought Earth had no secret weapons. Then the ocean released a warship. The sky over Geneva turned green at 6:42 in the morning. Not the green of leaves or grass, but a sick, glowing green that spread across the clouds like spilled paint. People stopped their cars. Children pointed up from bus stops. Phones rose into the air to record the strange light, and for a few minutes, the whole city forgot to breathe. Then the ships appeared. They did not fall from the sky like meteors, and they did not land with fire and smoke like something from an old movie. They simply became visible, as if a curtain had been pulled back. 12 of them, each larger than the tallest building on Earth, hung silently above the clouds. They were dark gray, shaped like long teardrops, and covered in lines of pulsing light that looked almost like veins. Within an hour, every major news channel on the planet was showing the same footage. Within 2 hours, every government on Earth had called an emergency meeting. Within 3 hours, the ships spoke. The voice came from every phone, every television, every radio at the same time. It was a calm voice, almost gentle, but it carried a weight that made people's skin go cold. "People of Earth," the voice said, "we are the Vorlon Compact. We have studied your world for many years. You are a young species, still fighting among yourselves, still burning your own air with your machines. We do not come to destroy you. We come to correct you." The word correct hung in the air like smoke. In a bunker beneath the Pentagon, General Marcus Reyes stood in front of a wall of screens, watching the same broadcast as the rest of the world. He was 58 years old, with gray hair cut short and a face that had seen too many crises to count. But even he felt his hands go cold as he listened. "They've been watching us for years," said Dr. Elena Vasquez, standing beside him. She was the head of the Global Defense Science Council, a woman who had spent the last 15 years studying signals from deep space that nobody else believed were real. "This isn't a first contact. This is an announcement." "An announcement of what?" Reyes asked. "Of ownership," Elena said quietly. On the screen, the alien voice continued. "We have observed your wars. We have observed your pollution. We have observed how you treat your own kind and how you treat your planet. The Vorlon Compact has decided that Earth requires guidance. In 3 days, our ships will descend. You will be organized under new leadership, chosen by us. Resistance will not be tolerated, and resistance will not succeed. You possess no weapons capable of harming us. We have scanned your world completely. We know this to be true." The broadcast ended as suddenly as it began. The green light in the sky faded, but the 12 ships remained, hanging above the clouds like silent judges. For the next hour, chaos spread across the world. Stock markets crashed, airports closed. Some people ran to churches, others ran to grocery stores to buy everything they could carry. Governments scrambled to speak with one another, but nobody had a plan, because nobody had ever imagined this moment would actually come. In the underground command center below the Pentagon, General Reyes called an emergency session with the leaders of the world's most powerful militaries. Screens lit up with faces from Russia, China, the United Kingdom, France, India, Japan, Brazil, and a dozen other nations. For the first time in decades, old rivalries were pushed aside. There was no time for politics. There was only time for survival. "They said we have no weapons that can hurt them," said General Chen from Beijing, his voice tight with anger. "How can they be so sure?" "Because as far as they know, they're right," Elena said, stepping closer to the camera. "Our satellites, our missile systems, our fighter jets, all of it is visible from orbit. Anyone with advanced scanning technology could map our entire military in a few hours. We have nothing hidden. Nothing that isn't already known." "Then what do we do?" asked the British Prime Minister, her voice trembling slightly. "Surrender?" Silence fell across the call. It was General Reyes who finally spoke, his voice low and steady. "There is one thing," he said. "Something almost nobody in this room knows about. Something that was never meant to be used unless the entire world was in danger." Elena turned to him, her eyes narrowing. She had studied secret programs for years, and she thought she knew about every hidden project on Earth. But even she looked surprised. "General," she said carefully, "what are you talking about?" Reyes took a slow breath before answering. "In 1987, he said, during the last years of the Cold War, a strange object crashed into the Pacific Ocean, near the Mariana Trench. It wasn't a missile. It wasn't a satellite. Deep-sea recovery teams pulled up pieces of something that didn't match any known technology on Earth. Metal that couldn't be cut with our tools. Systems that ran on power sources we didn't understand. The room went completely still. The United States and a small group of allied nations decided the discovery was too dangerous to reveal, Reyes continued. If people knew there was proof of alien technology, it would cause panic, and worse, it might attract attention from whoever built it. So a secret program was created. It was called Project Leviathan. Leviathan, Elena repeated softly, as if testing the word. For almost 40 years, Reyes said, scientists and engineers from a dozen countries worked together in complete secrecy, deep beneath the ocean, using pieces of that crash technology, combined with our own research. They built something, a vessel, not just a submarine, something far beyond that. It has never been tested in real combat. Some of the people who started the project are already dead, but the ship exists, it is real, and it is still down there, waiting. Why has no one used it before now? General Chen asked, his tone sharp with disbelief. Because it was built for exactly this moment, Reyes answered. A moment when Earth faced a threat, it could not survive without something beyond our normal weapons. We hoped that moment would never come. It seems we were wrong. The Vorland ships remained above the clouds as the hours passed, and around the world, people waited in fear, not knowing that far beneath the waves of the Pacific Ocean, something ancient and powerful was beginning to wake up. 2,000 meters below the surface, hidden inside a chamber carved into solid rock near the edge of the Mariana Trench, a small team of engineers and scientists lived and worked in near-total isolation. The facility was called Point Zero, and only a few hundred people on Earth knew it existed. Dr. Ha-Eun Kim had been the lead systems engineer at Point Zero for the past 11 years. She was in her early 40s, with sharp eyes and hands that had spent thousands of hours working on machinery that most of the world would never believe was real. When the alarm sounded through the facility, calling every worker to the central command room, she felt her stomach drop. "This is not a drill," said the voice over the intercom. "All personnel report to command immediately. Authorization code, Leviathan 1, has been issued from Washington." Ha-Eun ran through the metal corridors, her boots echoing against the walls. Around her, other engineers rushed in the same direction, their faces pale with a mixture of excitement and fear. They had trained for this moment for years, running simulations, rehearsing procedures, memorizing every system on the ship they had built. But none of them had truly believed they would ever need to use it. When she reached the command room, the massive screen at the front showed a live feed from the surface, the 12 alien ships hanging silently above the clouds, and beneath them, a world in chaos. Director Eris Thornton, the head of Point Zero, stood at the front of the room, his hands clasped behind his back. He was an older man, in his late 60s, with white hair and a calm face, that had guided the project since its earliest days. He turned to face his team. "For almost 4 decades, he said, his voice steady despite the moment, "we have built something that the world does not know exists. We have trained for a day we hoped would never come. That day is here." He pressed a button on the console beside him, and a section of the floor slid open, revealing a massive window that looked out into the dark water beyond the facility. Lights flickered on outside, illuminating something enormous resting on the ocean floor, a shape so large it seemed to stretch beyond the edges of the window. It was long, sleek, and built from a strange dark metal that seemed to absorb the light around it rather than reflect it. Along its sides ran lines of pale blue light, similar to the veins seen on the alien ships above, but colder, calmer. It looked like a predator sleeping, waiting for the moment it would be needed. "That," Thornton said quietly, "is the USS Leviathan, and in the next few hours, we are going to wake her up." Ha-Eun stared out at the massive vessel, her heart pounding. She had helped design its power systems. She had spent countless nights running calculations to make sure its reactors would not fail, but seeing it now, resting silently in the dark water, waiting for its first real mission, made everything feel different. This was no longer a project. This was a weapon, and soon, it would decide the fate of the entire planet. Above the surface, the world continued to panic. World leaders debated in secret calls, trying to decide whether to fight or surrender. Military forces were placed on high alert, though everyone knew that jets and missiles would do little against ships that could appear out of nowhere. The Vorlon Compact had made their demand clear. In 3 days, they would descend and take control. They believed Earth had nothing capable of stopping them. Their scans had shown nothing but outdated weapons and desperate, disorganized armies. They did not know about Point Zero. They did not know about the Leviathan, and they had no idea that deep beneath the waves, humanity's last secret was about to rise from the ocean and remind the galaxy that some threats cannot be seen from orbit. As night fell over the Pacific, the ocean floor near the Mariana Trench began to glow. Slowly, the pale blue lights along the hull of the Leviathan grew brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat waking after a long sleep. Deep inside the ship, ancient alien technology and human engineering worked together for the first time in true combat readiness, and far above, the 12 Vorlan ships continued to wait, confident that Earth had no secrets left to hide. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Inside Point Zero, the command room buzzed with activity through the night. Screens showed system checks running across every part of the Leviathan, rows and rows of numbers turning from red to yellow to green, as each part of the ship confirmed it was ready. Ha-Eun Kim moved between 3 stations, checking power output, reactor stability, and the strange alien core that sat at the heart of the ship's systems. That core was the reason the Leviathan existed at all. When the object had crashed into the ocean back in 1987, most of it had been destroyed on impact. But one piece survived. A small, dense sphere, made of a material nobody on Earth could fully identify. It generated energy unlike anything human science had created. More power from a single sphere the size of a basketball than an entire nuclear power plant could produce in a year. For decades, scientists had studied that sphere, slowly learning how to connect it to human-built systems without causing an explosion that could wipe out half the Pacific Ocean. It had taken 20 years just to safely power a single light bulb from it. It had taken another 15 to build a ship strong enough to contain and use its full energy. Core stability at 98%, Ha-Hyun called out. Power distribution nominal across all decks. Weapons systems? Director Thornton asked, standing behind her. Charging, said a younger engineer named Sam Okafor, watching his own screen. The rail cannons are almost at full charge. The plasma arrays are online. Give us 6 more hours, and everything will be at 100%. Thornton nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on the massive shape resting outside the window. 6 hours. That left barely enough time before the deadline the Vorlon Compact had given the world. Above the surface, the 3-day countdown continued, and the mood across Earth grew darker with each passing hour. World leaders had tried, quietly and desperately, to open communication with the alien fleet, hoping to negotiate, to buy time, to find some way to avoid disaster. But the Vorlon ships gave only silence in return, except for one more short message that repeated every 12 hours. Resistance is not possible. Compliance is required. Judgment will proceed as scheduled. In a private call between the leaders of the largest nations, tensions began to rise. Some wanted to strike first, to launch every missile they had at the alien ships before the deadline arrived, hoping that a surprise attack might do some damage. Others argued that such an attack would only invite faster and harsher punishment. We can't just sit here and do nothing, said the Russian president, his voice hard. If we wait for them to attack, we lose everything, with no chance to fight back. We are not doing nothing, General Reyes said calmly, from his seat in the Pentagon bunker. We are preparing something they do not expect. The submarine project, said the French president, his tone skeptical. You still have not shown us proof that this ship of yours is even real, General. Forgive me, but a story about aliens crashing in the ocean 40 years ago sounds like something from a film. Reyes exchanged a glance with Elena Vasquez, who sat beside him, her laptop open, reviewing the latest reports from Point Zero. You will see proof soon enough, Reyes said. But I need something from all of you first. I need you to trust that Earth's best chance is not spread across 100 different armies firing weapons that cannot even scratch their hulls. Our best chance is one ship, built specifically to fight something like this. If we reveal it too early, if we act carelessly, we lose our only real advantage. Surprise. The leaders fell into an uneasy silence. Nobody liked depending on a secret they had never seen, but nobody had a better plan either. Meanwhile, Deep beneath the ocean, Ha-Eun Kim finally allowed herself a short break, walking along a narrow corridor that led to an observation deck overlooking the Leviathan. She pressed her hand against the thick glass, feeling the cold from the water outside seep through even that small barrier. She thought about her grandmother, who had raised her in Busan, telling her stories about the sea gods who lived beneath the waves and protected sailors from storms. Her grandmother would have loved this, she thought. A real guardian, sleeping in the deep, waiting to rise and defend the world. Couldn't sleep either, a voice said behind her. She turned to see Sam Okafor approaching, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He offered her one, and she took it gratefully. Too much to think about, she admitted. We built this thing for almost 40 years, hoping we'd never actually need it. Now it's the only thing standing between Earth and whatever those aliens plan to do to us. Sam nodded, looking out at the ship. My grandfather worked on this project when it first started, he said. He used to tell me bedtime stories about a sea monster that would protect the world someday. I always thought he was just trying to make me fall asleep faster. Turns out he was telling me the truth the whole time. They stood together in silence for a moment, watching the pale blue lights pulse steadily along the hull of the Leviathan, growing brighter with each passing hour as the ship's systems came fully online. Do you think it will be enough? Ha-Eun asked quietly. 1 ship against 12 of theirs? Sam was quiet for a moment before answering. I don't know, he said honestly, but I know we built her with everything we had, every piece of alien technology we understood, combined with the best human engineering in the world. If anything can stand a chance, it's her. Back on the surface, 2 days into the 3-day countdown, something unexpected happened. One of the 12 Vorlon ships broke away from the group and descended lower into the atmosphere, hovering above the Pacific Ocean, directly above the location of Point Zero. Alarms rang out through the underground facility as sensors detected the ship's movement. They're right above us, Sam said, his voice tense as he studied the readings. Do they know we're here? They shouldn't, Thornton said, though his own voice betrayed uncertainty. This facility was built specifically to avoid detection. Layers of rock, specialized shielding, everything designed to hide us from exactly this kind of scan. Then why did they move directly above us? Elena's voice came through on the comm line from Washington, sharp with concern. Nobody had a good answer. For the next several hours, the Vorlon ship remained in place, hovering silently above the ocean. Point Zero's systems detected faint scanning signals, weak and inconsistent, as if the alien technology was struggling to penetrate the layers of rock and water above the facility. They're searching, Ha-Eun said, watching the scan patterns on her screen. But I don't think they're finding anything solid, just interference. Slowly, after nearly 6 hours, the alien ship rose back up and rejoined the others in high orbit. The immediate danger passed, but the message was clear. The Vorlon compact was not entirely blind. If they searched long enough, hard enough, they might eventually find what Earth was hiding. We need to move up the timeline, Thornton said, calling an emergency meeting with Washington. If they find this facility before we're ready, we lose everything. The element of surprise, the ship, possibly the whole planet's last chance. On the call, General Reyes agreed immediately. How much longer until Leviathan is combat ready? Ha-Eun checked her latest readings. Weapons are fully charged, power core is stable, but we've never tested the ship in real conditions. Every simulation we've run has been just that, a simulation. There's no more time for testing, Thornton said grimly. The deadline is in less than 20 hours. If we wait for the Vorlon ships to descend and attack first, we lose the advantage of surprise. I recommend we prepare Leviathan to surface the moment their fleet begins its descent. Reyes was silent for a moment, clearly weighing the risk. Finally he spoke. Do it. Prepare the ship. The moment they make their move, Leviathan rises. As the final hours of the countdown ticked away, the mood at Point Zero shifted from quiet determination to focused urgency. Every engineer, every scientist, every crew member who would soon board the massive vessel moved with purpose, checking systems one final time, reviewing procedures they had trained for over years, but never actually performed. Captain James Whitfield, a veteran naval officer who had been secretly training to command the Leviathan for the past 6 years, gathered his crew of 200 sailors and engineers in the ship's main hangar bay. They stood in neat rows, wearing uniforms unlike any other military force on Earth, dark gray, with the same pale blue markings that lined the ship itself. "Many of you have spent years of your lives on this project," Whitfield said, his voice carrying across the massive space. "Some of you gave up careers, families, entire lives on the surface, to work in secret, beneath the ocean, building something the world didn't know existed. Tomorrow, the world will finally know why." He paused, looking out at the faces of his crew, men and women, from a dozen different countries, brought together by one shared purpose. "We are not just defending our nations," Whitfield continued. "We are defending every person on this planet, every ocean, every mountain, every city, that has no idea we exist. When the Vorlon Compact looks down on Earth, they see a world with no secrets, no surprises, nothing that can stop them. Tomorrow, we are going to prove them wrong." The crew remained silent, but their eyes burned with determination. Above the surface, the sun set on the second day of the countdown, casting orange light across an ocean that hid one of humanity's greatest secrets beneath its waves. Somewhere far above the clouds, the Vorlon fleet waited patiently, confident in their belief that Earth had already shown them everything it had to offer. They had no idea that beneath the water, a warship built from 40 years of secrecy, sacrifice, and stolen alien technology was preparing to rise and change everything they thought they knew about the small blue planet they had come to conquer. The countdown continued. 18 hours remained until judgment, and deep in the Pacific, the Leviathan waited silently in the dark, ready to wake. The final hours passed slowly, like water dripping from a cracked pipe. Across the world, people gathered in homes, in churches, in town squares, watching the sky and waiting for the moment the alien ships would descend. Some prayed, some cried, some simply stood in silence, holding the hands of the people they loved, unsure if they would still be free by morning. At point zero, the mood was different. There was fear, yes, but it was mixed with something else, a quiet readiness that came from years of preparation, finally reaching its purpose. Captain Whitfield walked through the corridors of the Leviathan one final time, checking on his crew, making sure every station was manned and every system was ready. In the command room, Director Thornton stood beside Ha-Eun Kim and Sam Okafor, watching the countdown clock on the main screen. 2 hours remained. "Report from the surface," Elena Vasquez said over the comm line, her voice tense. "Vorlon fleet is beginning to move. All 12 ships are descending through the atmosphere." The room fell silent as the main screen switched to a live satellite feed. The 12 massive ships, once hanging peacefully above the clouds, now began their slow, deliberate descent toward the surface of the Earth. "They're heading toward major cities," Elena continued, her voice tight. "New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, Tokyo, Delhi, Sao Paulo, Cairo, Sydney, Los Angeles, Paris, and Lagos. It looks like they intend to establish a presence in 12 locations simultaneously. They're not wasting time," Thornton muttered. On the ground, chaos erupted as the ships descended lower, their massive shadows falling over cities that had once felt safe and secure. Military forces around the world scrambled into position, jets scrambling into the sky, ground forces mobilizing, though everyone knew their weapons would likely do little against technology so far beyond their own. In New York City, fighter jets rose to intercept the alien ship as it descended over Manhattan. Missiles were fired, streaking through the sky toward the massive vessel, but as they approached, a shimmering field of blue light appeared around the ship, and the missiles simply vanished into nothing, as if they had never existed at all. Similar scenes played out over every city the Vorlon ships approached. Conventional weapons, the pride of Earth's military forces for generations, proved utterly useless against alien shields. Pilots reported seeing their missiles disappear on impact, their radar systems failing to even register damage. Within 30 minutes, all 12 ships had settled into positions above their target cities, hovering just above the tallest buildings, close enough that people on the ground could see the strange lights pulsing along their hulls. Then, one by one, the ships opened. Large sections along their undersides slid apart, and smaller vessels began to descend from within, dropping toward the streets below. "Landing craft," Sam said, watching the feed with wide eyes. "They're deploying ground forces." The smaller ships touched down in the middle of major streets, crushing cars and structures beneath them. Doors opened, and figures began to emerge, tall, humanoid shapes covered in dark armor, moving with mechanical precision. These were the first Vorlon soldiers to ever set foot on Earth, and within minutes, they began advancing through the streets, their weapons raised, their intentions clear. In Washington, General Reyes watched the feeds with a grim expression, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "They're moving fast," he said quietly. "Faster than we expected." "Sir," said an aide, rushing into the room. "Reports coming in from London and Tokyo. The alien ground forces are moving toward government buildings. They're not attacking civilians directly, but they're taking control of infrastructure, power stations, communication towers, water systems. They're not here to destroy us," Elena said, watching the footage with a mixture of horror and fascination. "They're here to take over. Complete and total control, city by city." Reyes turned to the screen showing Point Zero, where Thornton and his team waited anxiously. "Director," Reyes said, "how much longer until Leviathan is ready to move?" Thornton checked the readings one final time. "She's ready now, General. Just give the word." Reyes hesitated for only a moment. This was the decision that would define the rest of human history. If Leviathan succeeded, Earth might have a chance to fight back against an enemy far more powerful than anything humanity had ever faced. If it failed, the last hope of the planet would be gone, and there would be nothing left to stop the Vorlon Compact from taking complete control. "Do it," Reyes said finally. "Send her up." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, alarms rang out across Point Zero as the final launch sequence began. Hyun Kim moved quickly between her stations, her hands flying across the controls as she initiated the release procedures that would separate the Leviathan from its docking clamps for the first time in its existence. "Core at 100%, she called out. "All weapon systems online. Shields at full strength." "Docking clamps releasing," Sam confirmed, watching as the massive mechanical arms holding the ship in place slowly retracted. "Leviathan is free." Inside the ship, Captain Whitfield sat in the command chair at the center of the bridge, surrounded by screens showing every system on the vessel. His crew worked around him with quiet efficiency, each person focused on their individual task, years of training finally coming together in this single moment. "All decks report ready," said his first officer, a sharp-eyed woman named Commander Priya Nair. "Reactor stable, weapons charged, shields at full capacity." Whitfield took a slow breath, looking out at the dark water surrounding the ship through the main view screen. Somewhere far above, his home city, his family, everyone he had ever known, waited under the shadow of alien ships that believed Earth was helpless. "Take us up," he said. The Leviathan's engines roared to life, a deep, powerful hum that vibrated through the entire ship. Slowly, the massive vessel began to rise from the ocean floor, its pale blue lights growing brighter as it gained speed, cutting through the dark water like a blade. 2 kilometers below the surface. 1 kilometer, 500 meters. "Approaching surface," Nair announced. 30 seconds. Whitfield gripped the arms of his command chair, his eyes fixed on the view screen, as the water above began to grow lighter, sunlight filtering down through the waves. 10 seconds, Nair said. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Leviathan broke through the surface of the Pacific Ocean, in a massive explosion of white water, sending waves crashing outward in every direction. For the first time in nearly 40 years, humanity's greatest secret was visible to the world, its dark hull glistening in the sunlight, water pouring off its sides as it rose fully above the waves. Satellites around the world immediately captured the moment, and within seconds, footage was broadcasting to every corner of the planet. People who had been hiding in fear, watching alien soldiers march through their streets, suddenly saw something impossible on their screens. A massive warship, larger than any aircraft carrier ever built, rising from the ocean like something out of legend. "What is that?" People whispered in cities around the world, staring at their phones and televisions in disbelief. Aboard the alien ships hovering above Earth's cities, sensors detected the sudden appearance of the massive vessel, and for the first time since their arrival, confusion spread through the Vorlon command structure. Their scans had shown nothing. Their calculations had been certain. Earth possessed no weapons capable of threatening them. They had been wrong. Aboard the Leviathan's bridge, Whitfield watched as the ship's sensors began mapping the positions of the Vorlon fleet, now confirmed to be spread across 12 major cities around the globe. "Sir," Nair said, "we're receiving a transmission. It's them." "Put it through," Whitfield ordered. The alien voice that had spoken to the entire world just days before now spoke directly to the Leviathan, its calm tone now edged with something that almost sounded like surprise. "Unknown vessel," the voice said. "You possess technology inconsistent with our previous scans of this planet. Identify yourself immediately." Whitfield stood from his command chair, straightening his uniform, and looked directly at the screen where the message had come through. "My name is Captain James Whitfield," he said, his voice steady and clear, "commanding officer of the USS Leviathan, representing the United Forces of Earth. You said we had no secrets left to hide. You were wrong." There was a pause on the other end of the transmission, a silence that stretched long enough to feel like victory in itself. "You will stand down," the alien voice finally said, though the calm confidence from before had noticeably faded. "One vessel cannot stand against the Vorlon Compact." "Then let's find out," Whitfield said. He turned to his crew, his expression hard and focused. "All hands, battle stations," he commanded. "Target the nearest Vorlon vessel. It's time to show them what Earth has been hiding." The Leviathan's engines surged with power, and the massive warship began to move, cutting through the ocean waves as it turned toward the coastline, toward the city of Los Angeles, where one of the 12 alien ships hovered above the streets, completely unaware that the battle for Earth's freedom was about to begin. The Leviathan moved through the Pacific waters at a speed that should have been impossible for something so massive, its engines pushing it toward the California coastline. Inside the command room at Point Zero, Ha-Eun Kim watched the tracking data with wide eyes, hardly believing the numbers she was seeing. "She's fast," Sam said beside her, equally amazed. "Faster than any of our simulations predicted." "The alien core," Ha-Eun murmured. "We never tested it at full output before. We didn't know." Aboard the ship itself, Captain Whitfield stood on the bridge, watching as the coastline came into view on the main screen. Los Angeles stretched before them, and hovering above the city was one of the 12 Vorlon warships, its dark hull casting a long shadow over the buildings below. "Distance to target?" Whitfield asked. 15 kilometers and closing, Nair replied. "They're aware of us. Their ship is beginning to turn." On the alien vessel above Los Angeles, sensors had detected the approaching threat, and the ship began to rotate slowly, positioning itself to face the incoming warship. Streets below erupted into chaos as people looked up and saw the massive shape rising from the ocean in the distance, cutting through the water toward the city. "They're powering weapons," Nair reported, her voice tightening, "detecting energy buildup along their hull." "Bring us to combat range," Whitfield ordered. "Raise shields. Prepare rail cannons." The Leviathan surged forward, water parting around its hull as it approached the coastline. As it drew closer, the alien ship above Los Angeles fired its first shot, a bright beam of energy that lanced down from its hull, streaking across the sky toward the approaching warship. "Brace for impact," Nair shouted. The beam struck the Leviathan's shields in a flash of blue light, and the entire ship shuddered from the force of the blow. Alarms rang out across the bridge, but the shields held. "Shield integrity at 94%, reported a young ensign, monitoring the ship's defenses. "We took the hit, Captain." Whitfield allowed himself a small breath of relief. 40 years of research and preparation had been worth it. The shields, built from a combination of alien technology and human engineering, had absorbed a direct hit from a weapon capable of vaporizing anything Earth had built before. "Return fire," Whitfield ordered. "All rail cannons, target their main hull." The Leviathan's weapon systems activated, and along its sides, massive cannon barrels rotated to align with the alien ship. With a deafening roar that echoed across the coastline, the rail cannons fired, launching projectiles at speeds far beyond the speed of sound, propelled by magnetic technology, reverse-engineered from the alien core. The projectiles struck the Vorlon ship's shields, and unlike the missiles fired by human jets days earlier, these did not simply disappear. The alien shields flared bright with the impact, straining under the force of the attack. Direct hits confirmed, Nair reported. Their shields are holding, but barely. Aboard the alien vessel, confusion turned into alarm. This was not supposed to happen. Earth had been thoroughly scanned, catalogued, and judged incapable of any meaningful resistance. Yet here was a vessel, matching their own technology, almost blow for blow. The Vorlon ship fired again, this time launching a volley of smaller energy blasts alongside its main beam weapon, trying to overwhelm the Leviathan's shields with multiple simultaneous strikes. The human warship rocked under the combined assault, sparks flying from control panels across the bridge. "Shields at 78%, the ensign called out. "Hold steady," Whitfield said, gripping the arms of his command chair. "Continue firing." The battle raged on above the city of Los Angeles, the two massive ships trading blow after blow, while people on the ground watched in stunned disbelief, recording the impossible battle unfolding in their skies. News helicopters kept a cautious distance, broadcasting the fight to a watching world that had, only hours before, believed humanity had no chance at all. In cities around the globe, similar scenes of fear and wonder played out as people watched footage of the Leviathan's battle over Los Angeles, and for the first time since the aliens had arrived, hope began to spread among the panicked population of Earth. Back in Washington, General Reyes watched the live feed with intense focus, occasionally glancing at readouts showing the Leviathan's shield strength and weapon status. "She's holding," he said, almost to himself. "She's actually holding." "One ship out of 12, Elena reminded him quietly. "This is only the beginning." As if responding to her words, alarms began sounding across multiple monitoring stations. The remaining 11 Vorlon ships, previously stationary above their respective cities, had begun to move, turning away from their original positions and heading toward the coordinates of the battle in Los Angeles. "They're regrouping," Elena said, watching the tracking data with growing concern. "All 11 remaining ships are converging on the Leviathan's position." Aboard the Leviathan, Whitfield received the same warning from his own sensors. "Captain," Nair said, "long-range scans confirm 11 additional Vorlon vessels inbound. Estimated arrival time, 18 minutes. Whitfield's jaw tightened. Fighting one alien ship had already pushed the Leviathan's shields to their limits. Facing 12 simultaneously would be an entirely different matter. "Status on our current target?" he asked. "Their shields are at 30% and dropping," Nair reported. "A few more direct hits and we could break through." "Then let's finish this one before the others arrive," Whitfield said. "Full power to forward cannons. Target their main reactor core." The Leviathan's engines hummed louder as additional power was diverted to its weapons systems. The ship surged forward, closing the distance to the alien vessel, its rail cannons firing in rapid succession, each shot striking the weakening shields of the Vorlon warship. The alien ship's defenses finally failed under the sustained assault, its shields collapsing in a burst of blue light. Without hesitation, Whitfield gave the final order. "Fire everything we have," he commanded. The Leviathan unleashed its full arsenal, rail cannons and plasma arrays combining into a devastating barrage that struck the exposed hull of the Vorlon ship. Explosions rippled across its surface, and within moments, the massive alien vessel began to list to one side, smoke pouring from multiple breaches along its hull. The people of Los Angeles, watching from the streets below, erupted into cheers as the alien ship that had hovered menacingly above their city began to retreat, damaged and smoking, rising higher into the atmosphere in an attempt to escape further attack. "They're breaking off," Nair reported, a note of disbelief in her voice. "The alien ship is retreating." Whitfield allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction before turning his attention back to the approaching threat. "Let them go for now," he said. "We have bigger problems coming." On the main screen, the 11 remaining Vorlon ships appeared as approaching dots, rapidly closing the distance toward the Leviathan's position. Whitfield studied the formation, his mind racing through tactical options. One ship against 12 had seemed impossible from the start, but the Leviathan had just proven that Earth's technology, when properly combined with what they had learned from the alien core, could stand toe-to-toe with the invaders. But 11 ships at once was an entirely different challenge. "Captain," Hayun's voice came through on the comm from Point Zero. "We're detecting a way to boost your shield capacity. If we reroute additional power from the facility directly to Leviathan's core, We might be able to increase your shield strength by an additional 15%. Do it, Whitfield ordered immediately. Every bit will help. As Point Zero worked to funnel additional power up to the ship, the 11 Vorlon vessels arrived, spreading out in a wide formation around the Leviathan, their weapons already beginning to charge. They're surrounding us, Nair said, tension clear in her voice. Whitfield studied the formation on the screen, his mind working quickly. Surrounded on all sides, the Leviathan would need to use every advantage it had, every system built into its hull over 40 years of secret development, if it hoped to survive this encounter. All hands, Whitfield announced across the ship's intercom, his voice steady, despite the impossible odds facing them. This is the moment we've trained for. This is why we built this ship. Earth is counting on us, and we are not going to let them down. Around him, his crew worked with fierce determination, checking systems, preparing weapons, and readying the shields for what would surely be the most difficult fight of their lives. The 11 alien ships closed in, their weapons fully charged, ready to destroy the single vessel that had dared to challenge the might of the Vorlon Compact. Whitfield gripped the arms of his command chair, watching as the enemy formation completed its encirclement. "They're opening fire," Nair called out, her voice tight with tension. Beams of energy lanced out from all directions, converging on the Leviathan from 11 different points at once. The massive warship shuddered violently as it took hit after hit, its shields flaring bright blue as they struggled to absorb the combined force of the assault. "Shields at 50%, and falling fast," the ensign shouted over the noise of alarms ringing across the bridge. Whitfield held firm, his eyes locked on the battle unfolding around him. This was the true test, the moment that would determine whether decades of secrecy and sacrifice had been enough to save the world, or whether Earth's greatest hidden weapon would fall here, surrounded and overwhelmed, its secret revealed only in the final moments before defeat. "Hold the line," he said through gritted teeth. "Hold the line, and give me options." The Leviathan shook violently, as another wave of energy blasts struck its shields from multiple directions. On the bridge, sparks flew from overloaded control panels, and crew members braced themselves against their stations to keep from being thrown to the floor. "Shields at 38%, the ensign shouted over the chaos. "We can't take much more of this." Whitfield's mind raced. Surrounded by 11 alien warships, the Leviathan was taking damage faster than its shields could recover. If something didn't change soon, the ship, and possibly Earth's only real chance at freedom, would be destroyed. "Hayun," he called through the comm to Point Zero. "I need something. Anything. We're running out of time up here." At Point Zero, Hayun Kim's fingers flew across her console, her eyes scanning data streams faster than she had ever worked before. Beside her, Sam Okafor pulled up old research files, digging through decades of notes left behind by the scientists who had first studied the alien core. "Wait," Sam said suddenly, his eyes widening as he read through an old document. "There's something here. Early notes from the original recovery team back in 1987. They mention a secondary function of the core, something they never got a chance to fully test." "What kind of function?" Hayun asked, moving to look over his shoulder. "An energy pulse," Sam said, reading quickly. "A short but powerful burst that could theoretically disrupt shield systems similar to the ones on their ships. The notes say it was too unstable to test safely, but in an emergency, it could give Leviathan the edge she needs," Hayun finished, already turning back to her own console. "Captain, we might have something, but it's risky. Extremely risky." "I'm listening," Whitfield said, his voice strained as another blast rocked the ship. "If we push the core beyond its normal limits," Hayun explained quickly, "we can generate a short-range pulse that should overload the shield systems of any ship caught in its radius. But the core wasn't designed for this. There's a real chance it could damage Leviathan just as badly as it damages them, maybe worse." Whitfield gripped his chair as another impact shook the bridge. Around him, his crew fought to keep the ship's systems running, their faces tense with exhaustion and fear. Time was running out, and there were no good options left. "Do it," Whitfield said firmly. "Prepare the pulse." "Captain," Nair said, "if this doesn't work, we won't have shields left to protect us afterward." "If we don't try," Whitfield replied, "we won't have a ship left at all. Prepare the pulse, Commander. On my mark." Down at Point Zero, Hayun and Sam worked frantically, rerouting power through emergency channels, pushing the ship's core toward levels it had never been tested at before. Warning messages flashed across their screens, but they ignored them, focused entirely on giving Whitfield and his crew the chance they needed to survive. "Core reaching critical threshold," Sam warned. "This is as far as we can safely push it, Captain. Any further and we risk a full core breach." "That's enough," Whitfield said. "Nair, ready the pulse." On the bridge, Commander Nair's hands moved across her console, initiating the final sequence. The Leviathan's pale blue lights, already glowing bright from the ongoing battle, suddenly intensified, growing brighter and brighter, until they became almost blinding. "Pulse ready," Nair announced. "On your command, Captain." Whitfield watched the tactical display, seeing the 11 Vorlon ships still firing relentlessly from every direction, their combined assault slowly grinding down the Leviathan's remaining defenses. "Fire," he said. The Leviathan released a massive burst of energy, a wave of blue light that expanded outward from the ship in every direction, washing over the surrounding alien vessels like a tidal wave. For a brief moment, the entire battle seemed to freeze, the world holding its breath as the pulse made contact. Then, one by one, the shields of the 11 Vorlon ships flickered and failed, their protective barriers overwhelmed by the sudden surge of unfamiliar energy. Alarms began ringing throughout the alien fleet as their defensive systems shut down completely, leaving their hulls exposed and vulnerable. Aboard the Leviathan, the pulse had taken its toll as well. The bridge went dark for several terrifying seconds, as backup power kicked in, emergency lights casting a dim red glow across the room. "Report," Whitfield called out, his voice tense in the sudden darkness. "Core stable," Hyun's voice confirmed quickly from point zero, relief evident in her tone. "Barely, but stable. You did it, Captain. Their shields are down." The bridge lights flickered back on, and Whitfield turned his attention immediately to the tactical display, where the 11 Vorlon ships now floated helplessly, their protective shields completely offline. "Weapons status?" Whitfield asked. "Rail cannons still operational," Nair reported. "Reduced power, but functional." "Then let's finish this," Whitfield said. "Target their engines and weapon systems only. We're not here to destroy them. We're here to send a message." The Leviathan's remaining weapons opened fire, striking precise, targeted blows against the now vulnerable alien ships. One by one, the Vorlon vessels began losing power, their engines sputtering, and weapons falling silent as the Leviathan systematically disabled their ability to fight. Within the alien fleet, panic spread as ship after ship went dark. Whatever confidence the Vorlon compact had felt just hours earlier, certain of their easy victory over a primitive world, had completely vanished. This single human vessel, appearing seemingly from nowhere, had turned the tide of an entire invasion in a matter of minutes. A transmission came through to the Leviathan's bridge, the same calm voice that had spoken to all of Earth days before, though now it carried a very different tone. "Human vessel," the voice said, noticeably shaken. "Your technology exceeds our previous assessment. We request a cessation of hostilities." Whitfield stood from his command chair, straightening his uniform as he looked at the screen where the message displayed. "You came to our world," he said, "claiming we had no way to defend ourselves. You were wrong. Earth is not a planet without secrets, and it is certainly not a planet without the will to protect itself. Withdraw your remaining forces from our cities immediately, and this ends now, peacefully." There was a long pause before the response came. "Understood. All Vorlon forces will withdraw immediately." Across the globe, the remaining alien landing forces that had been advancing through the streets of major cities suddenly received new orders, turning back toward their transport ships and retreating into the sky. People who had been hiding in fear for the past several hours emerged cautiously from their homes, watching as the invaders that had seemed unstoppable just hours before now fled from Earth's skies. The 12 Vorlon warships, 5 of them damaged and the rest disabled by the Leviathan's pulse, slowly rose back into the upper atmosphere and beyond, retreating into the depths of space from which they had come. Within hours, they had left Earth's orbit entirely, disappearing back into the darkness beyond the solar system. Back at point zero, cheers erupted throughout the command center, as confirmation came through that the alien fleet had fully withdrawn. Ha-Eun Kim allowed herself to finally breathe, tears of relief mixing with exhaustion, as she embraced Sam Okafor beside her. "We did it," she said softly. "After 40 years, we actually did it." Director Thornton stood watching the celebration with a proud but tired smile, thinking of all the scientists and engineers who had worked on this project over the decades, many of whom had passed away long before ever seeing this moment of victory. Aboard the Leviathan, Captain Whitfield stood on the bridge, watching through the main view screen, as the ship slowly made its way back toward the coastline of Los Angeles. Below, crowds had gathered along the shore, watching in awe as the massive warship that had just saved their city, and quite possibly their entire world, approached the harbor. As the Leviathan surfaced fully near the coast, people cheered from beaches and rooftops, waving and celebrating the vessel that had emerged from the depths of the ocean when the world needed it most. News cameras from every major network captured the moment, broadcasting images of the massive warship to a global audience that could finally breathe easy for the first time since the alien ships had first appeared. In Washington, General Reyes watched the celebrations with quiet satisfaction, finally allowing himself to relax after days of unbearable tension. 40 years of secrets, Elena Vasquez said beside him, shaking her head slightly in disbelief. Nobody knew. Nobody except a handful of people, and they carried that weight for decades, hoping this day would never come. But it did come, Reyes said, and they were ready. In the weeks that followed, the story of the Leviathan spread across the entire world, becoming one of the most incredible tales in human history. Project Leviathan was officially declassified, and the world learned the full story of Point Zero, of the scientists and engineers who had spent decades in secret, building humanity's greatest defense against a threat nobody believed would ever come. Ha-Eun Kim and Sam Okafor became celebrated figures, though both remained humble, insisting that the true heroes were the generations of scientists before them who had laid the foundation for everything they had built. Captain Whitfield and his crew were honored as heroes around the world, their names remembered in history books for generations to come. But perhaps the most important change came not from the celebrations or the medals, but from a shift in how humanity saw itself. For so long, people had felt small and vulnerable, aware that the universe beyond their planet held dangers far greater than anything they had ever faced. But now, they knew something important. Earth was not defenseless. Humanity, when united and determined, could face even the greatest threats the galaxy had to offer. Far beyond the edges of the solar system, the Vorlon Compact carried news of their failure back to their own leaders, warning others who might consider Earth an easy target that appearances could be deceiving. The small blue planet, once thought primitive and vulnerable, had proven itself capable of hiding secrets and building weapons that could stand against even the most advanced alien technology. And deep beneath the waves of the Pacific Ocean, the Leviathan rested once more in its home, at Point Zero, no longer a secret, but now a symbol of hope for an entire world. Its pale blue lights continued to glow softly in the darkness, a reminder that even in the deepest, most hidden corners of the Earth, humanity's strength and determination could always be found, ready to rise again whenever the world needed it most. The ocean had kept its secret for 40 years, and when the moment finally came, it had released a warship capable of saving the entire planet.